My name is Lisa Kyriakides, and I am the Handbell director at Aurora United Church. I play in our quintet, EmBellished. I am a ringer with the Bronze Foundation, and I am the OGEHR Central Area Rep. So today, we're going to talk about things that you can do when your conductor gives you a new piece of music and hopefully gives you 5 to 10 minutes to analyze, look at the piece, make your markings before you play it. Okay? So, a couple of things you would need in that instance. You would need your trusty pencil. Always have a pencil. This is a musician's best friend. Okay? And then, of course, you need a trusty eraser, because we all know that sometimes we make markings that we later on decide were not in our best interest and we want to change them. We need our eraser. Another thing that would be handy for you to have is a handbell notation symbol chart. In case you get confused about what the symbols mean, you mix them up, swings, echoes, which one is which, that kind of thing. Put this in the back of your binder so that you always have it for reference. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use this piece of music. It's called Celebrate with Joy by Cynthia Dobrinsky. One of my groups played it a few years ago, and it's a very upbeat, short piece with lots of melodic, rhythmic repetitions, and it's a lot of fun to play. It is a 3- leveled, and it is written for 3 to 6 octaves. So in this case, we are going to pretend that we're part of a 3-octave choir, and that we play position 3, which is G and A4. That's what it is in my choir. Okay? So just give me a second to share my screen. All right, so this is called Getting Started with a New Piece of Music, Tips to Make You a Handbell Champion. So I'm going to give you 10 things that you can do. This is not an exhaustive list. There's many more things you can do. And just to let you know that there will be a handout available on the OGEHR website right below this video that you can save on your computer or print out, and that will be available to you, and it will have more information than I'm able to give you in this short tutorial. The other thing to note is that my email address is at the bottom of every slide. Feel free to use it to contact me if you need to. Number 1, your bell chart. So you need to circle the notes that you have to play, the handbell notes, the hand chime notes, and move everything else out of the way. So remember, we are the G flat, G, A flat, A player, or the G and A4 player. So we're going to find that on the chart. We're going to circle those notes, and then we're going to move everything else out of the way. So in this piece, we don't need any hand chimes. We don't need any mallets. We don't need any dowels for singing bells. So everything else moves out of the way, and all we have left are our 4 bells, G flat, G, A flat, and A4. Okay? So then you have to ask yourself, why do you have more than 2 notes? So why don't you just have a G and an A? There's only 2 reasons for that. The first one is that you may have an accidental somewhere. So that's where it just slightly alters your note. G becomes G flat, for example, for a very short period of time. Usually by the end of the bar, it's changed back. And that's a very temporary change. Another reason, and the reason that Cynthia Dobrinsky has in this piece, is that we change key signature. So if you notice on the first example that starts in measure 26, if you get your eyes at the end of that line, you will see that we go from a key signature that has 1 flat to a key signature that has 5 flats, B, E, A, D, and G. So that directly affects our position because we are the G-A player. So our G and A4 move to G flat and A flat 4 starting in measure 29. Another example is on the right-hand side of this slide. Starting in measure 35, we are playing in the 5 flat key signature, so we will still have that G flat and A flat in our hands. But, however, in measure 37, we will need the naturals. So we need to go back to our naturals. We need to change our G flat and A flat to G and A. So that's why we have more than 2 notes. So then we go back to our bell chart, number 3, and we write our bell setup. And what I mean by that is we take all the things that we need to play the piece, so in this case our 4 bells, and we draw them out. How are we going to organize them on the table? And then we indicate which 2 are we going to start with. So here we go. I've decided, looking at the piece, that I don't want to put them in chromatic order. I'm going to put them G flat, A flat, followed by G and A. And then I've indicated that G will be in my left hand and A will be in my right hand. So every time I open this piece of music, I will know within 30 seconds how to put all my bells out that works best for me and what 2 bells I'm going to start the piece with. So there's not going to be confusion at the beginning of every time when I pick the piece of music up again. Well, what do I need? Where is it? And then there's nothing worse than, you know, picking up 2 bells, starting a piece of music and realizing you've got the wrong bell in your hand. So super important to do that. The next thing is we need to read the bracket rules. So where are the bracket rules found? Underneath the handbell chart. So remember, we're a 3-octave choir in this example. So it says that 3-octave choirs must omit notes that are in round brackets and are in those pointy brackets, right? These things. Okay, so we need to figure out if that applies to us. So if you look at the end of this and you see in measure 22, you see the very last chord has a G4 in it, but that G4 has a round bracket in it. We don't play it. But by the time I get to measure 22, I've probably forgotten the bracket rules because I've had to remember 10,000 other things. So what do? I cross it out so that I know when I get to 22, I don't have to guess. Do I need to play that? I can't remember what the bracket rules are. What are the bracket rules? I gotta look back. Nope, I just know, don't play it. Next thing is page turn. So most of us play with a partner on our stand. We share our music. If you're lucky enough to have a binder all to yourself, you can kind of skip this step. But if you're not, if most of us, we share music, then we have to figure out which one of us is going to turn the page. So which one of us has the hand that's going to be available to turn the page? So we analyze that. So we have the bottom of page 3 here and the top of page 4. And so I've decided that I should turn it, position 3, and I should turn it with my left hand because it will be empty. So I could turn it with my right, might have to move my bells a bit, but that's okay. Some people are uncomfortable turning with their left, but you could make that decision yourself. Notice I've written it down, 3 left, and there's no question we need to do that at the bottom of every page. Speaking of page turns, I'm sure you've been in ensemble, everybody's playing, it's going well, then everybody has to turn the page and the first bar on the top of the next page is a train wreck until everybody can get back together a bar later. That's because by the time we've turned the page, we don't have enough time for our brains to register what is coming next. What do I have to have in my hand? What rhythm do I have to play? So we write ourselves a note. So again, I'm the A player, the GA player, so I've written myself a note on the bottom, page 3, that when I turn the page to page 4, I need to have that A in my hand, and I need to play a whole note. It's written as 2 half notes, but it's tied together, so it's really a whole note value. And then I have a partner, a stand partner, so they also have to write theirs. So they're going to write that they need a C, and it's a half note. But notice that they write their instructions above because they're the higher notes, and I write my instructions below, so we don't get mixed up as whose is whose. Okay, handbell techniques. We need to know how to play and identify all our handbell techniques. So in this case, this piece has 7 handbell techniques in it. It's quite prolific. But we also need to know if the handbell techniques apply to us or not. So I'm going to highlight measure 45, and you will see that there is 3 echoes in that measure. But there's also a bracket sign, which to me indicates that the E5 and C5 player do the echoing and the other whole notes do not, so we don't do it. In measure 47, which I've just highlighted, there are 3 echoes, but there is no bracket, which means every whole note has to play those 3 echoes. Now, in staying with techniques, number 8 is that sometimes our techniques are written far away from where we're actually playing. And handbell ringers can have eyesight that gets very, very small. We only look at exactly where our notes lie on the staff, and we're not too great at looking at all the other things that are happening around us. So sometimes our techniques are indicated much higher or much lower than our notes lie, which means we don't see them. So if you look at example A, there's a ring touch in the treble clef on every chord, and every note has to ring touch. So if I'm at the bottom of that chord, so if I'm playing the D5 and E5, I might not see that ring touch on the first chord. So I'm going to write them in for myself. That way I see them where my eyes are actually focused. In the example B, let's pretend we're the B6, C7 player, so we're at the top of the choir, and we probably won't see that optional swing mark that's written between the two staves. So if our conductor has told us that we're going to swing, let's write it up exactly where my eyes are, where I will see it. And then in measure 84, the last measure in this example, if I'm the F and G5 player, the bottom of the treble clef, I might not see that martellato, so I'm going to write it in, because you don't want to be the player that doesn't martellato on the last note of the piece. All right, another thing we need to do is we need to read the footnotes. So the footnotes, of course, are at the bottom of the page. And we need to read them and see if they apply to us. So a footnote starts with an asterisk, and that asterisk is found in the music. So you can see that I've already circled that asterisk in measure 81 for you, so you can see where that footnote applies. So we read 5 and 6 octave choirs, double top notes, an octave higher. Okay, well, we're a 3-octave choir, so that doesn't apply to us. We don't worry about what 5 and 6 octave choirs are doing. Okay. However, we need to continue to read. So it says in measure 81, D6 and above may ring instead of martellato lifting to cause the sound to carry better. Well, that does apply to our choir. So if I was the D6, F6, or B flat 6 player, I would need to know from my conductor in measure 81 what he or she would like me to do. Do they want me to martellato lift, as it says, or do they want me to ring it, as it says in the footnote? And last but certainly not least, we need to identify and plan out our bell changes. So in this piece, we've covered that it changes key signature. So we're back to bar 36 again, the middle measure in this example. And at this point, we are playing G flat 4 and A flat 4. But in measure 37, we need to have that G natural in our hand. And subsequent bars, we need to have the A natural in our hand. So we go to the last place that we play a note, and then we write ourselves a hint so that we know what to do. So that's what I've written. The last time I play the G flat is in the second beat of measure 36. I've written myself a note that says I need to table my G flat, that's what the T stands for, and I need to pick up the G natural. I'm also going to need to do that with my A flat after. So again, I'm going to table it and I'm going to pick up my A natural. But I also have a stand partner, and that stand partner also has to change notes. So they're going to change from the B flat, so they're going to table or put down the B flat and pick up the B natural. So you'll notice that their instructions are written above. My instructions are written below. That way we don't mix them up, and when we're reading the music fast, we're not confused by an instruction that doesn't apply to us. So we always do that with a stand partner. The higher pitches right above, the lower pitches right below. So those are the 10 tips and tricks that I've given you for a new piece of music, but that is definitely not an exhaustive list. There are things like time signature and changes and dynamics and changes and rhythmic patterns and form and repeat signs and da capos and codas and all sorts of other things to look at. However, I couldn't cover them all, so just to remind you that there is the workshop handout that will be available at the bottom of the video on the OGEHR website. So I'm hoping that I will see you at the Q&A that's coming up right after this video. I would love to answer any of your questions or just have a chit chat about bells. So take care and hope to see you there.